Maya lived in a small town where life was not easy. The streets were lined with old houses, some with paint peeling from the walls, some with broken fences, but it was home to her. She was only 17, but she carried the kind of responsibility that many adults struggled with. Her father had passed away when she was just a child, and her mother worked long hours as a cleaner to keep a roof over their heads. Money was always tight. Every coin mattered, every decision about food, bills, or medicine was carefully made. Yet despite all of this, Maya was known for her kindness. People in her neighborhood would often say, "That girl has a heart bigger than her pocket." Each morning, she woke up early to help her mother prepare tea before going to school. After school, she worked small jobs, sometimes helping at the corner shop, other times cleaning tables at a cafe. Even though she earned very little, she always tried to save a little for her mother. Maya's dream was to continue her education, but even that seemed too heavy a dream for her family's reality. Still, she carried hope in her heart. One chilly morning, the kind that made the wind bite your skin, Maya stood waiting for the city bus. She wrapped her thin coat tightly around her and held her school bag close. Her shoes were worn, and the soles had tiny holes, but she walked proudly, never letting her struggles show in her smile. At the bus stop, there were a few other passengers, businessmen in suits, office workers with briefcases, and a group of students laughing together. Among them stood a man who looked very different. The man's clothes were ragged, old, and torn in places. His coat looked like it had been worn for many years, and his shoes seemed barely able to hold together. His hair was messy, his beard untrimmed, and his face carried the look of someone who had seen many hard days. People glanced at him, then quickly turned away, whispering to one another. Some moved a little further away, as if being near him would stain their own image. But Maya, standing nearby, simply looked at him once and then returned her gaze to the road. She didn't see a ragged man. She saw a person, just like anyone else, waiting for the bus. When the bus finally arrived, people rushed to climb inside. Maya waited her turn, standing behind the man. As he reached the driver, he patted his pockets, searching for coins. His face changed when he realized he had no money. He checked his coat, looked into his worn shoes, even turned his pockets inside out. Not a single coin appeared. The driver frowned impatiently. "Hurry up, old man," the driver said sharply. "You can't ride without paying." The passengers behind started to murmur. Some sighed loudly, others whispered things like, "Of course he doesn't have money," or "Why is he even here?" Maya felt her heart tighten. She could see the man's eyes. They carried embarrassment, sadness, and a quiet resignation, as if he was used to being treated this way. Before the driver could wave him off, Maya stepped forward. Without hesitation, she opened her small purse and pulled out the coins she had saved for her own fare. It was not much, but it was enough. "Here," Maya said softly, handing the fare to the driver. The driver looked surprised but took the money. The man turned to her, his eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, he seemed speechless. Then he whispered, "Thank you." Maya smiled. "It's okay. We all need help sometimes." The other passengers looked at her with mixed expressions, some with surprise, some with disapproval. But Maya didn't care. She stepped onto the bus, took a seat by the window, and opened her old, second-hand school book. The pages were bent, the cover torn, but she held it carefully, as if it were something precious. The man, still overwhelmed, found a seat across from her. As the bus rolled forward, Maya kept reading, her lips moving silently with the words. The man watched her for a while, his thoughts heavy. He saw how focused she was, how she held onto that little book as if it were the key to her future. He wondered what her life was like, why she was so quick to give up her fare for a stranger. He thought of his own childhood, how he, too, had grown up in a family that had nothing, how a single act of kindness had once given him a chance to change his life. The ride was not long, but for him, it carried a weight that no one else on the bus could understand. The girl who had so little had given freely, without expecting anything back. That kind of heart, he knew, was rare. When the bus reached his stop, the man stood up. He wanted to say something more, but the words stuck in his throat. He simply looked at Maya one last time, nodded in gratitude, and stepped off. Maya glanced up, gave him another small smile, then returned to her reading. She didn't think much of it. For her, it was just something natural to do, help someone when you can. The bus pulled away, and the man walked slowly into the busy streets. But inside his heart, something had shifted. He was not just a ragged man struggling for bus fare. He was Mr. Anderson, a billionaire who often dressed simply to move through the city unnoticed, to see life as it really was for ordinary people. Few knew this about him. Even fewer would imagine that a poor girl at a bus stop would treat him with the kind of dignity he rarely saw in his world of wealth. Maya sat in the bus, unaware of who she had helped, unaware that her simple act of kindness had just planted a seed that would one day change her life forever. To her, it was just another morning, another bus ride, another page in her book. To him, it was a moment he would not forget. The city rolled past the bus windows, tall buildings, busy shops, children walking to school. Maya's thoughts were on her studies and her mother waiting at home. She didn't realize that the man she had just helped would soon become a part of her story, in ways she could never have imagined. That chilly morning ended like any other. But sometimes, the simplest choices, a coin, a smile, a small act of care, can create ripples that reach far beyond what the eye can see. And this was one of those mornings. The bus rattled along the road, its engine groaning with every turn of the wheels. People inside bounced slightly with the movement, holding onto seats and rails. Maya sat near the window, her old book resting on her lap. She turned its pages carefully, running her finger along the words as she read. She had borrowed it from the library weeks ago and had read it many times, yet each time felt new. Books, for her, were like treasures that carried her into a different world. Across from her sat the ragged man, the same man she had just paid the fare for. He looked at her quietly, not with rudeness, but with a kind of curiosity. He wondered about her life. Why would someone who clearly had little money choose to spend it on a stranger? Most people guarded every coin. He had seen the looks from the others at the bus stop. They judged him quickly, saw only his clothes, and believed they knew his story. But this girl had not judged. She had acted out of kindness without asking for anything in return. The man adjusted his worn coat, pulling it tighter around himself. The fabric was rough and thin, but it was all part of his disguise. His real life was nothing like this picture. He was Mr. Anderson, a billionaire businessman, but he often hid his wealth to experience life from another view. He wanted to see how people treated those they thought had nothing. It reminded him of the world he came from before money, before power, when he too had once been hungry and cold. Now, sitting across from Maya, he saw a reflection of his younger self. She was not rich, yet she carried herself with dignity. She did not complain about her shoes with holes or her coat that was too thin for the cold. Instead, she focused on her book, her mind full of dreams. That struck him deeply. The bus rocked as it moved through busy streets. People entered and left at each stop. Office workers spoke loudly about meetings. A mother soothed her crying baby. Teenagers laughed at jokes only they understood. Life filled the bus in many colors, yet in the middle of it all sat Maya, calm, quiet, with her eyes on her book. The man thought about his own journey. When he was young, he too had sat on buses with no money, hoping someone would show him mercy. He remembered the sting of being pushed away by drivers or scolded by passengers who did not care. And he remembered one kind woman who once gave him enough money to buy food when he had none. That act had stayed with him all his life. Now, years later, sitting here in disguise, he had just met someone with the same heart. He leaned back and studied her. Her skull bag was patched at the edges, the straps worn thin from heavy use. Yet she held it proudly, as if it was brand new. Her hands looked rough for a girl her age, maybe from cleaning tables or carrying things. Still, she turned the pages of her book with care, almost as if she were holding glass. He smiled faintly. She valued what little she had more than many wealthy people valued their fortunes. For a moment, he wanted to ask her questions. He wanted to know her name, her dreams, her struggles. But he stopped himself. He did not want to scare her or make her uncomfortable. Instead, he simply watched in silence. The words "thank you" still echoed in his mind. It was such a small phrase compared to the weight of what she had done. Maya, on the other hand, did not think much about the man anymore. She was used to helping people in small ways. For her, kindness was not something to think deeply about, it was simply natural. If someone was hungry, you shared food. If someone needed help, you gave it. Her mother had taught her that even when you have little, you can still give something. And so, after paying the fare, Maya returned to her reading, never once considering how important this moment might become. The bus slowed down at another stop. A group of students climbed on, their laughter filling the air. They looked at the ragged man and smirked, whispering among themselves. Maya noticed but chose not to join. Instead, she kept her eyes on her book. She never liked mocking others, even if everyone else did it. The man noticed her silence. She did not defend him aloud, but she also did not laugh with the crowd. That small choice meant a lot to him. Minutes passed. The man's stop was coming near. He knew he would have to get off soon. He wanted to say something meaningful to Maya, something more than a simple thank you, but the words were heavy in his throat. Finally, he stood up as the bus slowed. He looked at her one last time. "You have a kind heart," he said softly. Maya looked up from her book and smiled, her eyes warm. "The world needs more kindness," she replied simply. Her words hit him harder than she could ever know. He nodded, then stepped off the bus. The doors closed behind him, and the bus rolled away. Maya returned to her book, the moment already fading into the background of her day. But for the man, it was not fading. He stood on the sidewalk, watching the bus disappear, his thoughts racing. He thought about the companies he owned, the boardrooms filled with men and women who wore suits but often lacked compassion. He thought about the wealth that filled his accounts and how little it meant if kindness was absent. And he thought about Maya, a poor girl with an old book who had shown him more humanity in 5 minutes than many people had in years. He walked down the street, blending into the crowd of the city. No one recognized him. To them, he was just another poor soul trying to survive. But inside, he was making a decision. He would not forget this girl. He would find her again. And when the time was right, he would return the kindness she had given him, not just with coins, but with something that could truly change her life. Back on the bus, Maya leaned her head against the cold window. The glass fogged slightly from her breath. She thought about her mother waiting at home, about the long evening ahead filled with homework and chores, and about her dream of becoming a teacher one day. To her, this was just another morning. She did not know that her path had just crossed with someone who would soon become a turning point in her story. The city outside blurred past as the bus moved on. Tall buildings stood proudly. Street vendors shouted, selling roasted peanuts and warm tea. Children carried heavy bags to schools. Life continued as always. But inside one man's heart, a spark had been lit. And that spark was the beginning of something far greater than either of them yet realized. The week after that bus ride was a difficult one for Maya. Life, which was already tough, seemed to press even harder on her small shoulders. Her mother, who had been struggling with a lingering cough for months, grew weaker. She still tried to go to her cleaning job at the offices downtown, but some days her body simply would not allow it. She would sit on the edge of the bed, holding her chest, whispering, "Don't worry, Maya. I'll be fine." But Maya could see the pain in her mother's face, and it broke her heart. The little money Maya earned from cleaning tables at the cafe and helping at the corner shop was no longer enough. Medicines cost more than she could imagine, and food had to be stretched thin. She often skipped meals, pretending she had eaten at school, just so her mother would not go hungry. Still, she never allowed her smile to fade. She believed, deep inside, that one day life would give her family a chance to breathe. One cold morning, Maya walked quickly to the cafe where she sometimes worked after school. The owner, Mr. Patel, was kind to her, though strict about her duties. She wiped down tables, carried trays of tea and coffee, and swept the floor. Every coin she earned was carefully folded and kept in a tin box at home. That morning, as she wiped a corner table, the bell above the cafe door rang. She looked up and there he was. It was the same ragged man from the bus. He still wore the same old coat, his shoes still looked worn, and his beard remained untidy. Maya blinked in surprise. She had not expected to see him again. He walked slowly to the counter, greeted Mr. Patel politely, and ordered a simple cup of coffee. When the cup was served, he chose a table near the window. Maya, carrying a cloth in her hand, gathered courage and went to clean a nearby table. When she looked at him, he gave her a small smile. "Hello again," he said softly. Maya returned the smile, surprised by the warmth in his voice. "Oh, it's you. From the bus." "Yes," he nodded. "And it's you, the girl who helped me when no one else would." Maya blushed slightly and shook her head. It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same. But he leaned forward a little. "No. Not anyone. Most people turn away." His eyes, though tired, carried sincerity. For a moment, there was silence between them, filled only by the sound of spoons clinking against cups and soft chatter in the cafe. Then, as if he could not hold back, he asked, "What's your name?" "Maya," she answered. "And yours?" He paused, thinking carefully. He did not want to reveal his true identity yet. "You can call me James," he said. Maya nodded politely. She did not press further. She was not someone who judged people by names, clothes, or appearances. She only cared about how people treated others. As she continued working, James, or Mr. Anderson, as he truly was, watched her carefully. He noticed her uniform, slightly too big for her small frame. He noticed how she worked quickly, never complaining, even when a customer left a mess. And he noticed how she smiled kindly at each person she served, no matter who they were. Later, when the cafe became quiet, James spoke again. "You are still in school, right?" "Yes," Maya replied, adjusting a tray. "I study in the mornings and work after. I want to be a teacher one day." "A teacher?" His eyebrows rose. "Yes. I want to help children who grow up like me. I know what it feels like to want books, to want guidance, and not always have it. Maybe I can be that person for them." Her words touched him deeply. He had met many wealthy people who dreamed only of more power, more money, more fame. But here was a poor girl whose dream was to serve others. It amazed him. "Do you enjoy reading?" he asked, noticing the small school book sticking out of her bag. Maya's face lit up. "Yes. I love books. They take me to places I cannot go. They make me believe in a bigger world." He smiled faintly. "I can see that." She tilted her head curiously. "What about you? Do you read?" James thought for a moment. Yes, I do. And I learn a lot from people, too. Especially from those who don't have much, but still have hope. Maya didn't fully understand his words, but she nodded politely. To her, he seemed like a quiet man with heavy stories hidden behind his eyes. When he finished his coffee, he stood up slowly, placing a few coins on the table. Maya walked over to clear it, but when she looked at the coins, she froze. It wasn't a few coins. It was a stack of money, more than she made in an entire week at the cafe. She looked up quickly. "Sir, you left too much." But James only smiled gently. "It's not too much for kindness. Use it for something you need." Before Maya could protest, he tipped his hat slightly and walked out of the cafe. She stood there in shock, holding the money in her hand. Her first thought was that maybe he had been saving up for a long time and wanted to give it away. She never imagined that he was a billionaire testing her character. That evening, she returned home with the money still carefully folded in her pocket. Her mother noticed the worried look on her face and asked what had happened. Maya explained, and her mother gasped softly. "Maybe God sent him to us," her mother whispered. "Don't doubt kindness, Maya. Sometimes blessings come in unexpected forms." Maya placed the money in the tin box with their other savings. She promised herself she would not waste a single coin. Yet in her heart, she felt puzzled. Who was this man? Why did he act this way? For James, walking away from the cafe, the moment filled his heart. He knew he would see her again. Something inside told him their paths were not crossing by accident. He had tested her heart twice now, first on the bus, then in the cafe. Both times, she had shown humility, honesty, and selflessness. In his world of billion-dollar deals, he rarely met people like Maya. And so, quietly, he began to form a plan. He would not just disappear. He would find a way to open a door for her, a door that could change her life. But he also wanted to see how she lived, how she faced hardships, how strong her spirit truly was. For him, this was no longer about charity. It was about honoring the rare beauty of a kind heart. And for Maya, it was just another day of work. Another day of balancing school, family, and dreams. She had no idea that her small act of kindness on a cold morning was slowly shaping into a story that would soon turn her whole life upside down. A few days later, something unusual happened in Maya's life. She came home from school one afternoon, tired from classes and from carrying her heavy bag filled with borrowed books. Her mother was resting, the soft sound of her cough echoing in the small house. On the wooden table in the center of their room lay an envelope. It was sealed neatly and had Maya's name written in careful handwriting. Maya frowned in confusion. Letters rarely came to their house. They had no relatives nearby, and bills usually came folded and rough, not clean and official like this one. She picked it up and opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, written on fine paper. Her eyes widened as she read the words, "You have been noticed for your kindness and strength of character. Because of this, you are being offered a full scholarship to attend one of the best schools in the city. All your fees, books, and supplies will be provided. Please come to the scholarship office on Saturday at 10 a.m. for more details." Maya's hands trembled. She read the letter again, then again. It felt unreal, like a dream too bright to touch. She rushed to her mother, who was lying on the bed. "Amma, look. Look at this," she cried, handing the letter to her. Her mother adjusted her glasses and read slowly. Tears filled her eyes. "Oh, Maya," she whispered. "This is a blessing. After all your hard work, after all your struggles, maybe this is the door we prayed for." Maya hugged her mother tightly. Neither of them understood how such a miracle had reached them, but both felt hope rising inside their hearts. Saturday came quickly. Maya dressed in her best clothes, still simple, but neat, and carefully ironed. Her mother tied her hair back and blessed her with a gentle hand on her head. Maya carried her school bag, still patched at the edges, and walked nervously to the scholarship office in the city. The building was tall and modern, with glass windows that sparkled in the sunlight. People in clean uniforms and suits walked in and out. Maya hesitated at the entrance, feeling small, but she took a deep breath and stepped inside. At the reception desk, a polite woman greeted her. "Your name?" "Maya," she replied softly. The woman smiled warmly. "Yes, we've been expecting you. Please, go to the third floor." Maya's heart beat fast as she climbed the stairs. On the third floor, she entered a large room. At first, she thought she had made a mistake. Seated at the end of the room was a man she recognized instantly. Her steps froze. It was him, the ragged man from the bus, the man from the cafe. But this time, he was not ragged at all. He was dressed in a sharp suit, polished shoes, and his beard was neatly trimmed. Around him stood assistants, holding files and waiting for instructions. The way they looked at him with respect and attention told her everything. Maya's mouth fell open. Her mind raced. She could barely whisper, "You." The man smiled gently, stepping forward. "Hello, Maya." His voice was calm but filled with warmth. Maya shook her head, confused. "I don't understand. Who are you?" The man extended his hand. "My real name is Mr. Anderson. I am a businessman. Some call me a billionaire. But the truth is, I am someone who has not forgotten where he came from." Maya's knees felt weak. She had never met someone so important, so powerful. Yet, the same eyes that had once looked embarrassed on the bus now looked at her with kindness and gratitude. "You paid my bus fare when no one else even looked at me," he continued. "You gave when you had so little yourself. That showed me your heart. And at the cafe, you spoke about your dream of becoming a teacher. I cannot forget that." Maya's lips trembled. She could not believe her small act of kindness had led to this. "You are here today," Mr. Anderson said, "because I want to help you. This scholarship is yours. You will study in the best school. You will not worry about fees, books, or uniforms. Everything will be provided." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "But, why me?" "There are so many others because you reminded me of something I had forgotten," he said firmly. "I once had nothing. And someone helped me. You reminded me of that moment. Now, it is my turn to give back." Maya's heart overflowed with emotions. She wanted to cry, to laugh, to thank him, all at once. She bowed her head and whispered, "Thank you, sir. I will not waste this chance." Mr. Anderson nodded. "I know you won't. You have a strength inside you that money cannot buy." The assistants handed Maya a folder filled with documents, schedules, and details about her new school. She looked at them in awe. This was real. Her dream, which once felt so far away, was now standing in her hands. That day, when she returned home, her mother saw her glowing face and knew everything had changed. Maya showed her the papers, and her mother hugged her tightly. "You see, my child," she whispered, "kindness never goes to waste. What you gave on that bus has come back to you 100 times more." In the days that followed, Maya prepared for her new school. She received a new uniform, clean books, and even a pair of shoes without holes. For the first time in her life, she felt equal to other students. She walked with confidence, though still with humility in her heart. Mr. Anderson kept in touch, watching from a distance. He did not want to overwhelm her with his presence, but he made sure everything she needed was taken care of. Sometimes, he would visit her school quietly, speaking with her teachers, ensuring she was progressing well. For Maya, every day at the new school felt like a blessing. She studied hard, determined to honor the chance she had been given. Her classmates noticed her dedication and respected her. Teachers praised her intelligence and effort. Yet, deep in her heart, she never forgot the bus ride, the moment when she chose to give away her fare. She realized that kindness, even the smallest, had the power to change not only her life but the lives of those around her. Mr. Anderson, too, carried that lesson. In his world of wealth, he often saw people pretend to care. But Maya's simple act had been real, pure, and without expectation. It reminded him of what truly mattered. Their lives, once worlds apart, had now become forever connected, all because a poor girl had chosen to pay for a ragged man's bus fare. From that day forward, Maya's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The scholarship gave her access to books she once could only dream of, teachers who encouraged her talents, and classmates who respected her for her hard work. She no longer worried about whether she could afford notebooks or whether her shoes would last another month. For the first time, she could focus on learning without the heavy weight of financial struggle pressing on her shoulders. Her mother grew stronger too, relieved of some of the stress that had weakened her body. With the medical care now provided through Mr. Anderson's quiet support, her cough eased, and she could finally rest without worrying about bills piling up. Their small home, once filled with silent worry, now carried laughter and hope. Every morning, Maya woke with determination. She read her lessons with focus, asked questions bravely in class, and studied late into the night under the dim light of a lamp. Her teachers admired her, not only for her intelligence but for her humility. She never boasted about her scholarship, never acted superior. She remained the same Maya, the girl who smiled warmly at everyone, who helped classmates struggling with lessons, who treated the school janitor with the same respect she gave her principal. Mr. Anderson watched from a distance. He never tried to control her life, but he made sure she had everything she needed to succeed. Occasionally, he met with her, always dressed in his fine suit now, but still carrying the gentle smile of the man she had once seen on the bus. He encouraged her to keep dreaming. One afternoon, after visiting her school, he told her, "Maya, success is not only about how high you climb. It is also about how many people you lift as you climb. Never forget the value of the kindness you carry." Those words stayed with her. They became her guiding light. Years passed, and Maya continued her studies with excellence. She graduated from high school at the top of her class, then entered university with the same scholarship. Her dream of becoming a teacher grew clearer with each year. She no longer studied only for herself but for the children she hoped to guide one day. During those years, she returned often to her neighborhood, visiting the small shopkeepers, greeting the bus drivers, and helping younger students with their homework. People admired her spirit. Many whispered about how one act of kindness had brought miracles into her life. Parents told their children, "See? Maya helped a stranger, and now look at her. Always be kind." Meanwhile, Mr. Anderson continued his work as a billionaire businessman. But something in him had changed too. Before meeting Maya, his world had been filled with endless meetings, contracts, and numbers. Money was always multiplying, but his heart often felt empty. Maya's kindness reminded him of the simple truths he had nearly forgotten, that real wealth lies not in bank accounts but in compassion and in lifting others. He began to invest more in schools, hospitals, and community programs, inspired by the spark Maya had lit in him. The day finally came when Maya graduated from university. Her mother sat in the audience, tears of pride flowing down her cheeks. Mr. Anderson was there too, seated quietly, clapping with the rest of the crowd as Maya walked across the stage in her cap and gown to receive her degree in education. She looked out and saw their faces, her mother, smiling through tears, and Mr. Anderson, nodding with pride. Her heart swelled. After the ceremony, she found Mr. Anderson waiting. She rushed to him and bowed her head respectfully. "Sir," she said, "I don't know how to thank you. Without you, none of this would have been possible." He shook his head gently. No, Maya. Without you, none of this would have happened. Remember, it was your kindness that started it all. I only gave back what you gave me first. Her eyes filled with tears. I promise you, I will spend my life giving to others, the way you gave to me. And she kept her promise. Maya became a teacher in her own community, returning to the very neighborhood where she once struggled. She stood before classrooms filled with children who reminded her of herself, children with patched uniforms, old shoes, and heavy dreams. She taught them not only mathematics and reading but also lessons about kindness, respect, and hope. Books can open your mind, she would tell her students, but kindness can open your future. The children loved her. Parents respected her. Neighbors admired her. And Mr. Anderson, though busy with his business empire, often visited her school quietly. Sometimes he would sit at the back of her class, listening to her teach. Watching her inspire children brought him more joy than any of his companies ever could. One day, during a school assembly, Maya was asked to share her story. She stood before the children and their families and told them about the morning when she had paid a stranger's bus fare. She did not reveal his identity but said, "That one small choice changed my life. I gave only a little, but it returned to me in ways I could never imagine. Never think your kindness is too small. You never know how far it can travel." Her words spread across the community, touching hearts and inspiring many. People began to treat one another differently, remembering her story. Bus drivers became more patient with passengers. Shopkeepers showed more care to struggling families. Neighbors began helping each other more. A ripple of kindness had begun, and it all traced back to that single morning on the bus. Mr. Anderson stood at the edge of the crowd that day, his eyes misty. He realized that Maya had done more than change her own life. She had changed him. She had changed the community. And in time, he believed, she would change the world. Years later, when Maya was older, she often sat by her window in the evenings, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops of her town. Children's laughter echoed in the streets. Her mother, now healthy and strong, sat beside her, knitting quietly. Sometimes, Mr. Anderson would visit, and they would talk about life, dreams, and the importance of giving. Maya never forgot the lesson of her journey. She knew that kindness was not measured in size but in sincerity. She had given away her bus fare without expecting anything, and in return, she had gained education, hope, and a future brighter than she had ever imagined. For the rest of her life, she carried that story with her. Not as a tale about wealth or luck, but as a truth, that even the smallest act of kindness can plant seeds that grow into forests of change. And so, the poor girl who once paid for a ragged man's bus fare grew into a teacher who shaped countless lives. And the ragged man, who was truly a billionaire, carried her story as a reminder that the greatest riches lie in compassion.